And it's the Hume Footy League. I tell you what, administrators have been working overtime, and the Vice President, Phil Bouffler, he has been going at it all week to trying to work out what is going to happen. We hope there isn't any lockdowns or any sort, but we've got him on the line to ask him the tough questions. G'day, Phil. How you going?
Morning, Wayne. How are you going?
Really well. As we're calling it right now and recording this on Friday morning, we hope that there isn't one of those sort of last-minute government brain fades that says we better put the regional areas of New South Wales into a lockdown. Let's hope not.
Mate, the think tank, the New South Wales government think tank are probably sitting in a room playing with their crayons, wondering what they're going to do next. So let's just hope they don't have a statewide lockdown, but could be on the cards. You don't know. What we say now could be changing in 5 minutes' time. So at this stage, it's full systems ahead. Victorian people can play, and it's back to normal round.
Oh, we're glad about that because, it was tough to see the poor CDHBU last week play Calcan over at the Lions Den, and the Power, well, they played with a second-string outfit. As we know, a lot of their boys do come across the border, and they lost by 3 points, 10-11-71 to 10-8-68. Gee, Phil, and just bad luck for them, but I think that they still will make the finals. I guess it's contingent on a couple of things, obviously getting to another round of football, but the reality of it is they're in the box seat still.
Mate, a lot of this, it's in their destiny now. I mean, it was unfortunate that this thing's happened. You know, they've been the side that has been affected with this border lockdown sort of thing and people in the bubble and all that sort of stuff. So it's been hard, but I mean, to their credit, they've played. Disappointing they lost by 3 points, but I think a lot of it will revolve this weekend about what happens with the Lockhart-Howlong game. That's going to have a big bearing on the final positions.
It certainly will. Well, Calcan won the game in the end. It was pretty even right throughout, but Chesser with 3 and Wright led the way. O'Rourke with 6 goals was magnificent for the Power, and Cushit and Phipps also were named in their better players. Osborne have beaten Holbrook by plenty in both games. They played down at Howlong. It didn't matter where they played at. Osborne were going to win it, and there could be some conjecture over even that for round 18 football. But, I mean, look at Osborne here, in an away game for them, even though it's their home game. They've beaten the second-place side, and they've done so by 11 goals.
I don't know what went on down there. I mean, the ground was in good condition. You know, here's the side. Holbrook pumped themselves up. You know, they're going to have to do this and do that and do everything, and it just sort of the wheels fell off, really. So I'm not sure. Osborne have just got another gear. They're like a 9-speed automatic. I'm not sure what gear they're in. It's probably not 9th yet. They could be in 7th or 8th, so they've probably got a gear left in them, but it was a big win.
I'll tell you what, some of those big tractors on your farm need an extra gear or two to get through the mud at the moment. But standing with 3 and Armstrong with 3 has been great, Big Hayden. And Rava, the veteran, back to his best with 3. McMasters and O'Rourke and Rutland played brilliantly for Osborne. McKinlay a couple for Holbrook. Other matches, Gindera got over Murray Magpies 13-11 to 4-5. I guess expected. Gindera's season's been well finished off, but Galvin with 7 goals, again their best. And what about their season finish? I guess if they had won a couple of earlier games, they'd be right in the mix.
Could have been. They got off to a slow start, Wayne, and that was their problem, Gindera. I read in the board yesterday that I think they said they'd re-signed every player for next year who'd played this year. So that's a great thing, and they've got a great base to build on now. A lot of it's about momentum. So moving into next year, you know, they get a couple of key players. They're going to be a force next year. And Murray Magpies, you know, they battle on every week. So, as I said, every week, credit to them. And they're running out of time, but let's hope they get a win up.
Certainly do hope. Brock Burham got a win up over Howlong. It was a good one, 12-10-82 to 9-14-68. I guess Brock Burham affected by the border too for some of their players. Howlong might have been likewise, but that was a pretty good effort from the Spiders against one of the, what we would say is one of the form sides in the competition.
They played well, and once again, Sudi comes back, and guess who lifts, you know, so that's what it's all about, you know, getting him back early. I think it was only 4 weeks since he broke his rib, so that was a pretty good effort. And they just plonked him down forward, and all of a sudden the big fellas kicked forward. So, you know, makes a difference.
Certainly does. Luff made a difference too. Mack, Neander and Kositsky were good players. Fife and Newman also played well for Howlong. And as we have a look at it, it was a magnificent performance by Lockhart, 15-14, 104 to Henty, 4-5-29. And I'll tell you what, even though they played it at Walbundary, they were very, very excited as they drove their way home to Lockhart, the D's, because this was a good home game win.
Big home game at Walbundary, so, you know, they're getting a bit of experience on the big Walbundary ground. You know, great facilities and that. The ground's in a really good condition. Obviously, this week we've wanted to spell the ground, getting closer to final, so Lockhart are playing their home game down at Urana. But Jordan Harrington, I heard him saying on the radio this morning, if he's not one of the favourites for the Azar medal, I don't know who would be. He's had a fantastic year. Zach Sheether's back playing good football, and Lockhart are just coming good. It's about momentum, and they're coming good at the end of the right time of the season.
They certainly are. I would have loved to have got back onto that home deck at some point in time, but not to be with the bubble situation. Harrington, as you mentioned, with 5 goals, and in the better players, Sheether and also O'Connell and Amory and Krebster were also amongst it. Turlick with 2, and Hoare and McCready were in the better players. The final one, Ramwell Bunbury Waller 14-18 beat the Billabong Crows 3-3. Poor old Crows having a tough season.
Had a tough season, the Crows, so they've been up and down a little bit, mainly down, battling on. They're going to regroup, hopefully next year, but Ramwell Bunbury, they played well. They're a good, strong side. The Ducks are playing well. They're a good side. So, I think that'll be a couple of interesting weeks. I think the last round, Lockhart plays the Giants, so that'll be a very interesting game.
It certainly is very interesting. We had Merkel with 5, and he was well supported by Wardius and Thomas with a couple. J Duck, L Garricky, T Holman in the better players. For the Billabong Crows, Arodian, Simpson and Morris kicked goals, and Nicholson, M. Arodian and Morris were amongst the better players. Let's have a look at what it means for this week, because we're going to round 17 action, and it's CDHBU at Corrine against Ramwell Bunbury. Really, for the Power, they'd like to get just one more win in the last 2 games just to be assured of that finals position, and with their Victorian-based players coming back over the border, I reckon they'll take it right to Ramwell Bunbury Waller.
This will be a pretty close game, this game, so there's probably 2 games. This game and the Lockhart-Howlong game will have a big impact on the ladder. Gee, this is going to be tough. They'll be smarting a little bit, CDHBU. I think they've got the raw end of the pineapple here a little bit, so they'll come in all guns blazing. As I said, maybe a week off stretch and a few of their players, a few niggling injuries, and they've had some good players out, so they'll be really wanting to win this. I'm going to go over to this game and have a bit of a look. And, I'm not going to pick anyone here, Wayne. I'm not game to. I think it'll be a draw. How about that?
I think if it's a draw, that'll be good for CDHBU. It'll be just as good as a win. It will shore up in the final 2 rounds their finals position. These 2 clubs could, of course, meet each other again in one of the knockout semi-finals later on if their positions on the table end up in that placement. Culcan take on Brock Burham Saints, and this again for the Saints. They've got Big Cedar. I think they'll beat Culcan over at the Lions Den.
They just snuck home last week, Culcan, by 3 points. So, I think Brock, the BB Saints, once again, momentum. Cedar's back, and they're building a bit of momentum towards the finals, and that's what the good sides do. So I expect them to win.
Now, Henty will beat the Billabong Crows at home at the Swamp. It's still pretty moist underfoot there. The Crows will go across there and try hard. But you'd reckon with Henty, they've got to get a couple of wins from their last 2 matches, and they'll get this one probably in round 18, struggle against Holbrook. But this week, they can just get the job done in front of them.
Might come down to percentage, won't it? So, this would be an important game for Henty on the home deck. I'd say they'd be morals to win this game.
They will be. Gindera take on Osborne over at Gindera. Can Gindera put up some sort of a credible fight against the juggernaut that is the Tigers at the moment?
Oh, they'll be trying all day, Wayne. That's the thing about Gindera. They're playing good football, but the juggernaut rolls on. So hard to imagine Osborne losing. They say every game you're one game closer to a loss, but just at this stage I can't see Gindera beating them.
And Lockhart take on Howlong. This at Urana. I'll tell you what, there's a bit of the old politics that goes around local areas in this, but Lockhart playing a home deck game at Urana, the old timers would never have agreed to it.
Never would have happened, years ago there was talk about Lockhart and Urana amalgamating, and I don't think that went too far, so, great. The Crows, well done to them for letting Lockhart go over there. And Lockhart have been fantastic about this. I feel sorry for them a bit. They've had 3 home games they've had to shift. They're building early on in the year, and they thought, right, we'll get some money, good money, and that's so they've shifted the things, not a complaint. They've been happy to do it, and fantastic. So well done to the committee of Lockhart. They've done a fantastic job.
Oh, yes, as I say, keep it in the family and playing down there with the family at Urana. Magpies take on Holbrook, one-sided affair, even though it's at Murray Magpies. I think Holbrook by plenty.
Just quickly on the Lockhart-Howlong game, if anyone's on the gate and as a fella turns up with a fake moustache and fake glasses and a fake wig, that's probably Bob Matthews, I reckon.
He might just have one of those face masks on and say that we've been told we have to wear them just for the sake of the day. Oh, good stuff. Who do you pick for the Murray Magpies and Holbrook?
Holbrook would have to win, Wayne. So that's a pretty simple one. They'll be pretty annoyed about what happened last week. They would have fancied their chances too. Guesty was back in. They had a pretty full side. So, I think they'll be pretty annoyed about that. So, and the Magpies, they'll try. There's nothing sure they'll try. But Holbrook at home, away, they'll be too strong.
All right. Hey, Phil Bouffler, do you have one of those fancy nose things with the glasses and the moustache? I mean, is that what they might find when you rock up at Careen on your big road trip?
That could be me. I've got a pigeon. Well, you wouldn't know this one. I breed racing pigeons of all things, so that's my hobby, breeding racing pigeons. So I've got a racing pigeon mask. So it's a bit of a giveaway when I turn up somewhere, so I'll have to think of something else, I think.
Oh, yes. You and Bill Lorry, the two most famous racing pigeon fanciers, I think you're called. Is that right?
Yes, we're a pigeon fancy, Wayne. It's not a brilliant name, but that's what we are, pigeon fanciers.
Yes, that's right. Well, I fancy that you'll be out on the road watching some good country football down at the Power and maybe even dropping into your Anna and catching up with the face mask Bob down there, and we'll look forward to your comments next week.
All right, you Wayne. Thank you.